You've been waiting for permission your whole life. Permission to speak up, to take space, to be seen, to lead. But here's the truth. No one is coming to hand you your power. No one is going to look at you and say, "Now you're allowed to be great." The world doesn't work that way. You either decide to own your strength, or you keep living small, trapped by your own hesitation. Every single day you hesitate, you give someone else authority over your life. You silence yourself, shrink yourself, and call it being humble. But humility isn't the same as fear. And playing small doesn't make you kind. It makes you invisible. We live in a world that rewards confidence, not compliance. The people who rise aren't always the smartest or the most talented. They're the ones who stop waiting for permission. They're the ones who speak when others are silent, who move when others freeze. You don't need another sign, another validation, another nod of approval. You've already got everything you need. What's missing isn't ability, it's audacity. Somewhere along the way, you were told that strength makes you intimidating, that confidence makes you arrogant, that wanting more makes you ungrateful. But that's a lie. You were never meant to blend in. You were built to stand out. You were designed to carry power, not to apologize for it. Yet every time you ask, "Am I ready?" or "What will they think?" you hand that power away like it's optional. It's not. You were born with it. The only question is whether you'll claim it. Stop asking for permission to exist in your own story. Stop waiting for someone to crown you worthy. You are already enough. Not because someone said so, but because you showed up, you endured, you fought to be here. Every scar, every setback, every silent victory has earned you the right to stand tall. And now, it's time to use that strength. Because the truth is, people will doubt you, they will underestimate you, they will challenge your right to be powerful. But their disbelief doesn't define your capability. You don't need a title to be strong. You don't need applause to be powerful. You don't need approval to be unstoppable. Power is not given, it's taken. It's claimed by the person who decides to stop waiting. And when you stop waiting, everything changes. The fear loses control, the hesitation disappears. You stop being the supporting character in your own story and start becoming the author. So let this be your awakening. You've spent enough time asking for permission to rise. Now it's time to stand, to speak, to lead, not because someone said you could, but because you finally realized you didn't need them to. Here's what most people never realize. The biggest prison you'll ever live in is built by your own hesitation. It's not the world that keeps you stuck. It's the limits you've accepted. You wait for permission because you've been conditioned to. Since childhood, you were told to ask before speaking, to wait before acting, to be polite, to not upset anyone, to not be too much. And now, as an adult, that conditioning has become your cage. You wait for someone to validate your choices, to tell you your dreams are worth chasing, to reassure you that it's safe to be bold. But life doesn't hand out permission slips. Life rewards those who step forward without one. The truth is, no one can give you power. They can recognize it, they can respond to it, but they can't create it for you. That's your job. Power isn't something that's granted. It's something that's earned through courage, through persistence, through the decision to keep going when everything tells you to stop. You can't wait for confidence to appear. You build it in the moments you act without it. You can't wait for fear to disappear. You move despite it. That's where real strength comes from, not from the absence of fear, but from the mastery of it. So ask yourself, how many times have you held yourself back because you were afraid of judgment? How many times did you mute your voice to make others comfortable? How many dreams have you buried because you thought you needed approval to pursue them? That hesitation, that constant second-guessing, is not humility. It's surrender. And the more you surrender your voice, your ideas, your vision, the weaker your spirit becomes. But here's the shift. Power begins the moment you stop negotiating with your potential. It begins the moment you stop apologizing for who you are. The moment you stop asking, "Can I?" and start saying, "I will." Because the people who succeed in this world aren't the ones who wait to be chosen. They choose themselves. They step up before anyone invites them to. They lead even when no one's watching. They don't wait for approval. they create proof. This isn't arrogance, it's ownership. It's the understanding that your power doesn't come from external validation, it comes from inner conviction. When you know who you are, you don't need to ask anyone to confirm it. You move with clarity. You speak with confidence. You make decisions rooted in strength, not fear. That's the difference between existing and leading. Every time you choose yourself, you reinforce your power. Every time you act without permission, you strengthen your character. And the more you do it, the less you'll care about who approves. Because real freedom, real confidence, comes when you stop waiting to be told you're enough and start living like you already are. Most people don't realize how much of their life they give away simply by waiting. Waiting for the right moment, waiting for the right words, waiting for someone to notice their effort. And in all that waiting, life moves on without them. The truth is, power isn't lost in one big moment. It's surrendered in small daily hesitations. Every time you hold back your opinion because you fear judgment, every time you lower your standards to be accepted, every time you stay silent when you should speak, you're teaching the world how to treat you. You're showing them that your voice doesn't matter, that your worth depends on their reaction. That's not humility, that's permission-seeking disguised as politeness. Stop asking for permission to be bold. Stop waiting for the world to tell you you're ready. Readiness doesn't come from comfort, it comes from confrontation. You grow stronger every time you challenge your own excuses. You become tougher every time you choose courage over convenience. That's how resilience is built, not by avoiding pain, but by learning how to carry it without breaking. Strength is not about pretending nothing hurts. It's about standing tall even when it does. Discipline is another form of power most people overlook. Everyone wants motivation, but motivation is fleeting. Discipline is what remains when the excitement fades. It's doing what must be done, even when no one's watching. It's holding yourself accountable, not because someone told you to, but because you respect yourself enough to follow through. The moment you start honoring your own word, the world begins to take you seriously. That's the quiet confidence that separates those who talk about power from those who embody it. Emotional intelligence is another weapon most underestimate. Power isn't loud, it's controlled. It's not about shouting to be heard, it's about speaking with conviction that makes others listen. When you know how to manage your emotions, no one can use them against you. The person who can stay calm in chaos, that's the one who wins. You don't have to match anyone's energy. You simply have to hold your ground. The louder the world gets, the quieter real power becomes. And then there's confidence. Not the fake kind built on applause, but the real kind forged in solitude. Confidence isn't given, it's built. It's the result of showing up again and again, even when you're scared, even when you failed. It's built in silence, in the moments when you choose not to quit, when you rise after being ignored, when you keep believing in your value, even when no one else does. That's what makes you powerful. You are not waiting to become powerful someday. You already are. You just need to stop handing that power to fear, doubt, and other people's opinions. Because the moment you realize your strength doesn't depend on permission, you'll stop seeking approval and start moving with authority. The real shift happens when you stop asking, "What if I fail?" and start asking, "What if I never try?" Because failure doesn't destroy you, hesitation does. The fear of what others will think keeps more people stuck than actual mistakes ever will. You have to understand something. Every time you play small to make others comfortable, you reinforce your own limitations. You convince yourself that power is something distant, something other people have, something you need to earn through approval. But power doesn't work that way. Power is a mindset. It starts with what you believe about yourself. If you see yourself as capable, the world begins to respond to that energy. If you doubt yourself, people sense it and treat you accordingly. You don't need anyone to crown you capable. You need to decide you already are. The most powerful shift you can make is from seeking validation to creating validation. You stop waiting for opportunities and start making them. You stop asking for clarity and start moving forward, trusting that the path will reveal itself as you walk. Because clarity doesn't come before action, it's created by action. Waiting for confidence before you move is like waiting to be strong before you lift the weight. You get stronger by lifting. You get confident by doing. This is where self-trust comes in. Trusting yourself is the foundation of all power. It means knowing that even if things go wrong, you can handle it. It's the quiet voice inside that says, "I've survived worse." When you trust yourself, you stop needing external approval to feel secure. You stop second-guessing every decision. You stop apologizing for having standards. You stop chasing people's acceptance and start demanding your own respect. And that's when everything changes. Because the world mirrors your energy. Building inner validation means you no longer rely on someone's applause to keep going. You start taking pride in the process, not just the praise. You start measuring success by effort, not opinion. You learn to be your own source of motivation. You learn to move forward even when no one believes in you because your belief becomes enough. That's the moment you transition from powerless to powerful, when your sense of worth no longer depends on external permission. You also have to learn to embrace discomfort. Growth doesn't come wrapped in comfort. The moment you feel uneasy, uncertain, or scared, that's not a signal to stop. It's proof that you're expanding. Discomfort is your mind's way of saying, you're entering new territory. Most people retreat when they feel that tension, but the strong lean into it. They know every challenge is a chance to level up. The more you face fear, the less control it has. So shift your focus from seeking safety to building strength. You can't be both comfortable and powerful. You have to choose. Power comes when you decide to keep standing tall even when your knees shake, when you trust your voice even when it trembles, when you move forward even without a map. That's how you rewire your mind, not by waiting for certainty, but by walking through uncertainty with courage. This is the moment where you stop being the version of yourself that waits. The version that asks, is it okay if I shine? Or, do I deserve to lead? Because every time you ask those questions, you delay your own power. Power doesn't wait for the perfect timing. It responds to courage. And courage isn't the absence of fear. It's the refusal to let fear decide what happens next. You don't need anyone to validate your strength, your worth, or your potential. The only validation that matters is the one you give yourself when you look in the mirror and say, I'm done asking for permission. You've been conditioned to think you have to earn power, through titles, through approval, through recognition. But real power isn't granted by anyone else. It's built through action, through the moments you choose to step up when it would be easier to shrink back. Every time you take control of your own decisions, every time you speak your truth without softening it to please others, you reclaim a piece of yourself that fear tried to steal. That's how you build unshakable confidence, not through comfort, but through consistency. This is where self-respect becomes your armor. When you respect yourself, you stop begging for it from others. You start carrying yourself differently, with quiet certainty, not arrogance. You stop chasing approval and start commanding it through presence. That's the power people feel when someone has done the inner work. You can't fake it. You can't buy it. You can only become it by doing the hard things no one sees. The early mornings, the private failures, the moments when you keep pushing, even when it feels like no one notices. That's where power is forged. In the unseen, uncelebrated work. You must decide that from this point forward, you will not wait for permission to take up space, to share your voice, to become more. You don't need anyone to tell you you're worthy of success, love, or greatness. You already are. But worth without action is wasted. Confidence without motion is empty. So move, speak, act. Even when your voice shakes, even when you doubt yourself. Because movement builds momentum, and momentum creates transformation. Remember, no one will hand you your power. The world only reflects what you demand from it. If you carry yourself like you belong, people will start to believe it too. If you walk into every room like you've earned your place, you'll stop wondering if you deserve to be there. Because you do, you always have. You just needed to stop asking for someone else to confirm it. This is your reminder that you don't need a title, a degree, or anyone's approval to be powerful. You just need the decision to stop waiting, stop apologizing, and start owning the person you are meant to be. The world doesn't give permission to those who wait. It opens for those who act.